Guys, welcome to the Geezer for the Visas insight into the Global Talent Visa. It's an amazing visa. It's there for people to come into the UK to either start a business or to work for companies who are looking to recruit the best and the brightest. My name is Amr Zaman, and I've been an immigration solicitor for 12 years and involved in immigration law in the UK for around 16 years. Today's video is about discussing the Global Talent Visa, why it's one of the best visas, and how we can guide you through the process. Specifically today, it's an introductory video. So we're going to go through what the visa is about, what the general criteria are, and how you can navigate yourself through the process. However, going forward, there will be other videos where I go into detail about each criteria for the Global Talent Visa. We're focusing on the endorsement process. Why? Because the visa is quite straightforward. You just need the endorsement, and that's it. So the endorsement is where it gets difficult, and that's why I want to discuss that with you guys in today's video. But it's an introduction today just to kind of make you understand the Global Talent Visa. It's an overview. We're not going to go info heavy today. The following videos will focus on the criterias. So let's get into it. So when it comes to the Global Talent Visa, one of the main things that applicants actually fail on is that they don't provide the correct evidence and they don't understand what the technician, the endorsing body, what they're actually looking for. So that's the purpose of the video, to try and get into it, to make you guys understand exactly what the endorsing body technician, when it comes to digital technology, is looking for. So one of the main things to understand for the Global Talent Visa is that you don't need sponsorship. Unlike the skilled worker visa, you don't need an employer that's going to sponsor you for the duration of the visa. It's based on your own kind of success and what you want to do in the UK, whether you're employed or whether you want to start your own business. So that's one of the top reasons why people want to apply for the Global Talent Visa, because essentially you're not hooking yourself in or boxing yourself in for a 3-year period or a 5-year period with one employer. You have that freedom to either move around or start your own business. So when it comes to the Global Talent Visa and the digital technology subcategory, which is endorsed by TechNation, one of the main things that they are looking for are people who have had impact in that space. So they're not looking for people who just work in the digital tech space or digital tech field. What they're looking for is people who have made an impact in that space. So what are the spaces that they're looking at? Well, they're looking at AI, fintech, machine learning. These are the kind of industries, when it comes to technology, that's what they're looking for. So if you are someone who is talented or can show promise, then maybe that Global Talent Visa is for you. It's for you to demonstrate your skills and to show what value and impact you have had on your space when you've been working. Now, that could be as a business owner or it could be as an employee. And it doesn't need to be just in the UK. It can be abroad. So if you are coming from India or China or Nigeria or the US, for example, well, then you can apply and show the value and the impact you have had on the digital tech space or the digital tech fields in those countries. But you need to show that value and that impact. Without those things, it's highly unlikely your application for the endorsement will be successful. So if you've looked into the digital technology and the endorsements and the visa process for global talents, you will have come across terms like exceptional talent or exceptional promise. Now, what does that mean? Essentially, the exceptional talent is someone who's an experienced person in their field and have a career of more than 5 years. So you've already had that impact, you've already added value, and you've had a career which might have been 5 years, 8 years, 20 years. It all depends on when you want to come to the UK. But if you've had that longevity in your career, then the exceptional talent is the route that you want to select when it comes to the Global Talent Visa. Alternatively, if you're someone who's had a career of less than 5 years, but you're beginning to show signs of that impact, of having that value, well, then the exceptional promise will be the route for you, because you're showing that promise, the desire, the ability that you will become a leader, a recognized leader in your space. So that's why they have the two categories: people with careers of more than 5 years and people with careers of less than 5 years. Now, obviously, that impacts the length of the visa. So if your exceptional talent had a career of more than 5 years, well, then you'll get a visa which is valid for 3 years, which will then lead to permanent residency in the UK. But if you're someone with exceptional promise, well, then they're looking to grant you a visa of 5 years, after which you could be eligible for permanent residency. And it's an important distinction between the two, because obviously, if you are someone who's at the start of your career, they want to see that you've realized that potential. And it takes longer to show that. And that's why the visa is valid for 5 years. But for people who have careers of more than 5 years, well, then you're in the talent sector. And in that talent, you get a visa for 3 years. Unlike most of the UK visa applications, there's a two-stage process for the global talent visa. The first stage, like I said at the beginning, is an endorsement stage. So if we are looking at the digital technology field and applicants applying from this space, well, then your endorsing body is going to be TechNation. And they have a specific criteria or the documents that they are looking for in order for them to successfully endorse you. Once you've got your endorsement, you can then apply for your visa. So it's a two-stage process. The visa stage is actually quite simple, because what you're doing is essentially letting the Home Office know that you've been granted the endorsement. But the endorsement is where it gets difficult. So if you can successfully apply for your endorsement, there's no reason why you shouldn't get a visa for the global talent. So when we're looking at some of the key benefits for the global talent visa, it essentially derives from the disadvantages of the skilled worker visa. And that's why a lot of people who are talented in the digital technology field opt for the global talent visa over the skilled worker visa. So one of the first things that we look at in terms of a benefit is that you don't need an employer who's going to sponsor you as an employer for the duration of the visa. So that's one thing which is immediately a benefit. A second benefit is that there's no English language requirement. A third benefit is that there's no minimum salary requirement. So again, with the skilled worker visa, with all of the changes that have been coming in over the last 2 years, we're up to around £41,000 minimum that you need to be paid for your employment. Now, this varies depending on the types of roles that you're doing. So if you're, for example, a more senior applicant and you may be a director or an executive, you're looking at salaries of between £50,000 and £80,000. With the global talent visa, there's actually no minimum salary requirement. So that's immediately another benefit to the global talent visa. So these are 2 or 3 of the benefits that people find helps them when it comes to applying for the visa, because it's suddenly not such an arduous process. But like I said, the endorsement, that's where it gets technical, and that's where it's really important that you prepare for your endorsement application, because if you fail to prepare, well, then you're going to end up failing. It's as simple as that. Those applicants who actually prepare properly, understand what needs to be provided, they're the ones who are successful. And that's the type of attitude you need to take if you want to be successful with your endorsement application. So you now might be thinking, okay, I understand the process, I understand what the visa is about, but what are they actually looking for? What are the documents that I need to provide? Well, when it comes to the global talent visa endorsement, we can look at it in 3, maybe 4 categories. So the first category is they need a personal statement from you. That's a document which should be no more than 2 or 3 pages, which should outline what you've done, what you aim to achieve going into the future, and also highlight your key achievements over the course of your career. It's a personal statement, so it needs to be personal to you. Don't get someone else to write it, because it will become immediately clear that it's been written by someone else. Think about what you think will showcase your best skills. It's literally a window into your professional career. They want to see what you're about, and they want to see what you want to do in the future, because that's where they will gauge the value and the impact that you've had. So the personal statement is the first thing. The second thing you need to provide is a CV. So again, CV straightforward, no more than 2 sides or 2 pages. It doesn't need to be extensive. It needs to be pinpointing your key highlights when it comes to your academic qualifications, your work experience. That's what they're looking for. And the reason we don't need a long CV is because the documents you're going to provide in support of the application, well, that's going to be from what is essentially your CV. Don't waste the space that you've been given for the CV part of the application, because all your documents will back up everything that you're saying. So keep it brief, but keep it concise, and make sure it's not too long and doesn't drag on. Otherwise, they're not really going to appreciate the CV. The third section, or the third kind of criteria when it comes to documents, are the letters of recommendation. Now, you need to provide 3 letters, which shouldn't be more than 3 sides of A4. Yeah, so 3 recommendation letters from people who have worked with you or collaborated with you, or in some capacity in your professional career have been involved in work with you. This is what you need to provide to the endorsing body for impact and value, because these people will be attesting to essentially why you are an exceptional talent. Now, when it comes to the people that you select, the people who are going to be the writers of these recommendation letters, well, they need to be people who are of high caliber. Now, how do we kind of decide who is high caliber? Well, the first thing is they need to be searchable on Google. So if I type in Joe Blogs and Joe Blogs wrote the letter for you, he needs to come up within at least the first 1 or 2 pages of Google. His LinkedIn profile, maybe some articles that he's written, maybe some of his achievements that someone else has written about him. That needs to come up, because if I can't, as an endorsing body from Tech Nation, if I can't find this person, then how can I take what he's saying seriously? Because he's attesting to how good you are. And if I can't see how good he is, well, then the words on the paper don't mean much. So when you choose and select the people who are going to write your recommendation letters, make sure you choose the right people. And again, they don't need to be UK based, because if your work has been in Kazakhstan or Korea, then, well, they're not going to be involved in the UK space. But if they are involved in the UK space, it's definitely an advantage, because you're looking to come into the digital technology field where you're showing or showcasing your skills in the UK market. So if they have had impact and value, then we know they're coming from a good position. And that will definitely help your visa application. Sorry, your endorsement application, not the visa application. So this is something that you need to bear in mind when you do your letters of recommendation. And it's 3 of them that are needed. The fourth part of providing documents is essentially you showcasing your skills, your achievements, and they should go towards the mandatory criteria and 2 of the 4 optional criteria that you choose, that you are relying on for the endorsement. So it's 10 pieces of evidence. They shouldn't be more than 3 A4 sides of paper. They need to showcase how you've added contribution or value or impact in digital technology. So that could be financial impacts, it could be significant contributions that you've made commercially to your own business or to a business that you've worked for. It should showcase the innovation that you've brought. It should showcase what kind of impacts you've had from maybe an academic point of view. And we'll go through each of the criterias. So in the future videos, we'll discuss this. But what you need to ensure is that you have the documents which meet the 3 criteria that you are relating to. Either the mandatory criteria and then 2 of the 4 optional criteria. How much documents you show across the 3 criteria that you're going to be relying on, well, I would say an even spread would be good. Now, it doesn't help that 10 documents, you can't spread that evenly. One will have maybe more, or there'll be 2 less for a specific criteria. But generally, you want to go for 4 documents for the mandatory criteria, 3 for one of the optional criterias, and 3 for another optional criteria. But it's not a hard and fast rule. This is just my opinion and my experience based on the clients I've worked with in the past. If you feel like actually your optional criteria that you're relying on, one of the four, is your best one, which showcases your best skills, then go heavy with the documents there. Maybe 4 or 5 documents there. But if you really want to impress them, then even spread. And remember, these documents should be the best ones to show impact and value. Don't provide something which you say, look, I think this shows my best skills. No, they should immediately pop out from the documents. And when we go through each of the mandatory and the optional criterias, I'll kind of explain further of what documents will have that impact on your application. Now, given that this is such a niche visa, it's not something that anyone can apply for. There's a lot of mistakes that applicants make, which lead to the endorsement being refused or rejected by the endorsing body technician. So it's really important that we cut these mistakes out from the beginning, because you don't want to submit an application and that application gets refused because of a mistake which is commonly made, because you're hearing or you're getting advice on what documents don't work. And if you then provide those documents or you make mistakes in the application process, this will be an issue, and it's something that you shouldn't really be doing. So a few of the mistakes that I've seen people make in their endorsement applications when I see refusal letters or rejection letters is that when they provide evidence of the work they've done, they don't provide evidence of the actual work. What they do is they provide a job description. This is what I've done. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And it's like, well, okay, you're saying that, but where's the evidence to prove that? That's the key part. If you don't have the evidence to prove, well, then that becomes an issue. And that is something that TechNation, the endorsing body, will not look at kindly. So don't just put job descriptions. Don't just say, this is what I do. Don't just provide, a part of your employment contract which lays out the job duties. No, show them, this is the work I've done. Here's the evidence of that work. So that's one of the common mistakes. Another mistake that I see is that the recommendation letters can be quite weak. Now, you've been given a certain amount of pages that can be written about you. But if the recommendation letter doesn't attest to your best skills and to talk about how great you've done in your field, the impact, the value, well, then those recommendation letters are weak. And if those recommendation letters are weak, you're going to start your application for an endorsement off to a bad start. Why? Because it just doesn't show your best skills. You're going to be just another person in a whole stack of applications who is as good as 10,000 other people. No, you need to ensure that your recommendation letters show you as the top of the class, the teacher's pet, whatever you want to call it, creme de la creme. That's what your recommendation letters should showcase you as. So don't submit weak recommendation letters. That would be my advice. One of the other ones that I see is when you use the same evidence for all of your criterias. Like, oh, here's one letter or one evidence of prototype or one accountant's letter from the company to show significant contribution across all 3 of the criterias that you're relying on. It just doesn't work. And the guys at TechNation will see this straight away. They'll know that, okay, you know what? You're just providing one evidence for 3 criterias, which shows you don't actually have much to contribute. And that will be an immediate red flag for them. So when it comes to your evidences across the 3 criterias, keep the evidence unique. Keep it individual. Don't rely on it for the different criterias. And that's something that a lot of people do, but they don't realize how that negatively affects their endorsement application. So when you're preparing your evidences, make sure it's 10 individual pieces of evidence, not 4 pieces of evidence which is just recycled across the criterias. So these are some of the common mistakes that I've seen people make. Now, there could be tons of others. Some people, they focus on the education part too much. Oh, this is the degree I got. This was the master's. This is the diplomas. Okay, great. You've learnt the theory behind what you're doing, but what are you doing? That's the impact. Unless you're relying on the academic side of things, the academic criteria. But as an academic, you're going to be showing what you've done in that field as an academic, not as a student. So this is a really important distinction to make when it comes to evidences. Don't focus too much about the qualifications you've obtained when you were a student. No, they want to see the impact, and that's what people need to focus on. So, like I said, these are some of the common mistakes, and these are the common mistakes that you want to kind of take out of your application, because if you have these type of mistakes, immediately Tech Nation will think, you know what, I don't think this person knows what they're doing, or they're not as talented as what they are making themselves out to be. So definitely make a note of these common mistakes and make sure they don't appear in your endorsement application. Now, when it comes to making the endorsement application and the visa application, depending on how much time you have in terms of whether you have an existing visa which is about to expire, you can apply for both the endorsement and the visa at the same time. Obviously, you have to pay for both fees, or you can apply for the endorsement application first, and then if you're successful, then apply for the visa. So it's entirely up to you how to go about that. And like I said, if you are on a bit of a time limit when it comes to your current visa that you hold, a UK visa, or even if you need to move from another country to the UK, you can apply for both at the same time, which kind of gives you that flexibility of not becoming an overstayer, because that's not something you want to do, Nigel Farage. I know you're keeping an eye on those stats, but if you apply for both at the same time, then it can help you when it comes to overstaying and extending or obtaining Section 3C leave, which is a whole topic in itself, but I'm sure you guys know what that means. So yeah, you can apply for both at the same time or individually. That's entirely up to you. So during the course of my work, obviously, we have extensive consultations with clients who call up, who want an immigration consultation regarding the global talent visa with either myself or members of my team. And I've picked out 3 or 4 questions that normally crop up during a consultation with clients, and I think it will be handy for me to discuss them with you now, so that it kind of puts you in a position where you have a more enlightened view of the global talent visa application and the process and some of its criteria. So the first question I get a lot of is, do I need sponsorship? I've addressed this earlier in the video, but no, you don't need a job offer from an employer because it's open to you for what you want to do when you come to the UK on the global talent visa. So you may have a job offer, and it's something that you might want to provide, especially if the offer relates to a high salary. So in the tech space, depending on experience, the high salary can be a very much a positive factor for an endorsement application. So if you have a job offer letter with a high salary, then yes, definitely provide that. But it's not a requirement for you to have sponsorship from an employer. A second question that comes up often is, can I apply with my family, my wife or my husband or my partner and my children? Yes, you can, is the short answer. Obviously, they will have their own criteria that they will need to satisfy, but under this visa, you can be eligible, or your dependents can be eligible to come to the UK with you or extend their current stay with you in the United Kingdom. Now, these dependents don't need to go through the endorsement process with you, because the endorsement relates specifically to yourself. It doesn't relate to obviously your dependents, because maybe your 5-year-old child isn't a whiz kid right now, so it'd be unfair to judge him on that, or her, or them on that. So I would say the dependence becomes more relative or more relevant when you go through the visa process, not when you're going through the endorsement process. Another question that comes up is, how do I know if I'm talented? And it's interesting, because as lawyers we advise, well, it's quite subjective. Anyone can be talented, but it's about showcasing your skills. But people who come from the tech scene, they expect a definitive answer, and there's no definitive answer, because everyone is different. Everyone's contributions, everyone's impacts, everyone's value in the space or in the business that they've worked in or co-founded or owned is different. So is there a specific criteria for what they're looking for? Is there a perfect individual who's going to apply? The short answer is no. It's about showcasing your skills and convincing the endorsing bodies the evidence that's been provided best showcases your skill as a talent in the digital technology field. And it's not just the work you've done, but being recognized as a talent. And that's where the recommendation letters come in. And like I said earlier on, you want to make sure that you're recognized by credible people. People are searchable. Because if you've got a weak recommendation letter, it's not going to help. So yeah, there is no perfect individual. It's about best showcasing your skills through impact and value in the digital technology scene. So the last question that I can think of when it comes to people when they have consultations with us is, can I apply from outside the UK? And very straightforward, yes. You can apply from outside the UK or you can apply from inside the UK. You can switch. You can't switch from a visit visa. So if you've been given a UK visitor visa, or you've been granted asylum, or you have a discretionary visa in the UK, you can't switch into the global talent visa. If you have a skilled worker visa, an innovator visa, a student visa, if you have a spouse visa, not sure why you would want to change, but you're open to change into the global talent visas. But if you're outside the UK, yeah, you can apply. If you are, for example, let's say a Korean national and you've been living in the US, working there, can you apply from the US? Again, yes, you can, as long as you have residency in the US or any other country that you are living in. If you're a visitor to those countries, then no, you would have to go back to your home country that you are a national of and apply from there. But if you have some kind of residency in the third party country, you can apply for a UK visa under the global talent criteria for a visa to come to the UK. Okay, so those are the kind of FAQs that people, they ask generally when they have consultations with me and my team. It brings us to the end of this video. In the next video, we're going to be discussing the mandatory criteria, and the mandatory criteria is going to be the foundation upon which you're going to make your application for an endorsement. So it's a really important video. I'm going to go through exactly what the criteria is, what they're looking for, what documents you can provide to best support your application for the endorsement under the criteria, and it will give you an insight into what you feel like you can provide to help support the application. So thank you for watching today's video, and definitely tune in for the next one, because that will help you understand the foundation of your application. So it's a really important one, and one that you don't want to miss. Remember to like, follow, share, all of that, so that you can be kept up to date with each time a video comes out, so you know exactly what you need to help you prepare for a future application. Thank you for your time and your attention. I hope the information has been helpful. The geezer for the visa is always here to assist you. If there's any questions that you have, leave them in the comments, and we'll be happy to advise you based on that. Thank you guys. Take care, keep safe, and I'll speak to you guys soon.